Good morning, Nancy, and good morning, everybody. Happy feature or happy Freedom Friday. And it's another feature. I have Nancy here with us. And we were just chatting before going live and just kind of going through everything that has happened for her, where she is today relative to where she was when she started. And just, I'm so proud of the progress and transformations that she's had so far for you, Nancy. And what I get most excited about is you're still like we're all just getting started, and where you've come such a long way in such a short period of time. I get really excited about where are you going to be in a year from now? Where are you going to be 5 years from now? There's a lot of life left in us, hopefully, right? And a ton of purpose in us that we're going to continue to untap and develop. And so it's just like, wow, when we start to learn all about us and how we work and our potential and how to use our mind, the entire world opens up for us. Hey, Nancy?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so let's start with, share a little bit about what life was like for you, before we connected. Where were you at? What were you looking for? What was life like for you?
Before Penny connected me with you, I was still dealing with cancer. I was diagnosed in the summer of 2021. I had surgery in the fall of 2021 and then 6 months of aggressive chemo, where they thought it was just for preventative measures, but a CT scan in June of 22 showed that there was more, and it was my lymph nodes were enlarged, and I had other problems too. My left kidney was blocked, and so I had to that summer get a stent shoved through my back, through my kidney, down the ureter to my bladder to drain that kidney. And I had my life completely changed at that point because I could no longer have a long hot bath, like just simple things that we take for granted. I couldn't have that part of my back in water at all. So I couldn't go in the lake with my son. I couldn't ride the sea-doos. I couldn't sit in a hot tub with friends. I couldn't do any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of a person who likes to do everything. So I was already very limited after chemo and stuff too, because that was really hard. But this changed my life drastically. And this was what they said was their permanent solution. And the results from my CT scan, my doctor here said that I was a candidate for immunotherapy, but that was the only thing that they could try and do for me to try and give me a little bit more time.
So, Nancy, and I'll just give you a moment here too, and thank you so much for sharing. I know this is often difficult, but you had said permanent solution. So, at that time, was this something that you were looking at as a lifelong, like a lifelong part of you, but then also not knowing how much time there was? Like, was that your reality back in 2021?
Yeah, I really didn't know how much time I had. And yes, this was the quality of life I was going to have for the rest of that time.
Okay.
And I ended up taking myself to emergency in the middle of the night so many times from infections from that stent. It was, oh, I've been through a lot, and
Yeah.
um, that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. So to have that as a solution for the rest of my life, I
Right.
terrible. So that summer, after he told me that, of course, I was devastated. And it took me a couple weeks. And a good friend said to me that none of us know if we have tomorrow, right? None of us know what's going to happen. So, do you want to spend this last day being sad, depressed, worried, stressed, or do you want to make it the best day you can? So that kind of smartened me up. And I remembered then I had been seeing my local naturopath to do high dose vitamin C IV to get through chemo.
Yeah.
And she had mentioned that if it came to it, she wanted me to go to this place in Mexico. And she had sent a previous patient there. She connected me with that patient. I talked to her so that I knew it was legit, because that's the thing you always worry about, right? So I also at this time was also going through a lengthy divorce. By that point, it was already 6 years. It's been 7 years now, still not completely finished, but mostly. So I called this place in Mexico. They don't waste time. They book you in right away as soon as you need to. So I went through my divorce trial. I finished harvest. I was still farming with my ex because it was my farm too. I'm stubborn like that. So uh, and then went down there for a 3 week program. Within 2 weeks of their treatments there, which are all very humane, by the way, nothing like chemo and radiation are here. They support your body to heal itself instead of attacking your body and trying to kill it.
Yeah.
Um, Within 2 weeks, the tumor that they didn't tell me about here, I had two tumors. The one that was blocking my left ureter was completely gone. My lymph nodes were shrunk back to the normal size, and I was able to. He wrote the request for me to get that stent taken out as soon as I got back to Canada. So I did. Um, the remaining cyst that was on my right ovary, it had shrunk considerably, but it was a fluid filled cyst, so it was hard. It's harder to get rid of those. So fast forward to right before I connected with you, March of 20, what year are we?
2023.
That's fall of 22 when I went down to Mexico the first time.
Right.
In March of 23, I consulted with my Mexico doctor all this time because he sticks with you for a year after you've been there. So he suggested that he wanted to operate and remove that cyst and that ovary because it wasn't changing in size, and he anticipated more problems. Here they were still, oh, they put me in a pool for the gynecology pool to pick me up to see, look at my file to see if they wanted to do anything. It's all a waiting game here.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down to Mexico, and it was right after I connected with you. So at that point, I still hadn't had a judgment from my trial, my divorce trial. So I was still at the mercy of my ex. I had no income,
Yeah.
no assets. Um, so I was extremely stressed. I still had this cancerous cyst. Um, my life, it just felt like I was in complete chaos because I couldn't control any part of it because it seemed like everybody else was in control of every aspect of my life still. So I went to Mexico. I started watching the lessons. I had my surgery there, which was amazing. Everything they do there is amazing. The pathology on that cyst showed that it wasn't cancerous anymore. So everything that I had been doing in the 6 months from the last time I was there to that point had killed the cancer.
Yeah.
Um, and while I was down there, because I was watching the lessons, started changing how I was thinking. As I was down there, I got the first part of my divorce judgment. So when I came home, I was actually sitting in the airport after my surgery. I was allowed to go home, and I was sitting in the airport thinking, okay, I have my land now. I can rent it out. I can earn my own income. I'm in control of my life now. So I put out an ad for renting out my land, and it just has everything's changed from there.
Mm-hmm. And it literally has. And it reminds me of, Bob saying when he was unhappy, unhealthy, broke, and sick, right? And I don't want to call you those things, but I'm sure that's how you felt, right? That's just what you were experiencing. Um, you were kind of trapped in all these circumstances and conditions, and it was showing up in your body, it was showing up in your mental health, your emotional health, your financial health, right? And thank goodness, that well, Penny, but you ultimately made the decision because you didn't want to live like that anymore. You are strong on your own, but we can become even better when we have, proper type of help and support and guidance and so on and so forth. So when you say, everything has changed, okay, so what's going on in your life today. Like, here's where you were. Let's, and then here's what happened. But then there's other stuff too that has happened recently. So let's go into that as well and congratulate and celebrate you on those things too.
Okay, so since I was able to come back cancer free and had some of the assets from my divorce, the rest of the judgment isn't final yet, but it's given me the ability to uh, well, like I said, earn my own income and be in control of myself, and then to um, decide what I wanted to do every day. And I'm a person that likes to be busy. So I know I needed to do something. Technically, I could live off of my land rent, but that's not who I was going to be every day. Um, so when I wrote down my C type goals at the beginning of this course, I have this big dream. I live in one of my rental houses right now, so it's really small and doesn't fit all my kids. I have 4 kids. 2 of them are adults, so it's just when they would come home, but they can't stay with me because I don't have room. Um, I want a home. I haven't, ever since I left my marriage 7 years ago, I haven't really had a home. I've moved around from one of my rental houses to another, just depending on availability. And I've lived in a camper, I've lived with friends, I've lived like, I have not had a home. And that's my biggest dream, is to build myself a home. And now that I have my favorite quarter of land where I actually go sit out on when I was, I'll get to that, I guess, but I go sit out where I find peace. And it was my dad's quarter. I used to go out there with him, pick rocks and stumps because he broke that quarter. So I feel connected to him out there, I guess.
Yeah.
So my dream is to build this out there. The things that have happened in my life to get there were things that I didn't even write down at the beginning of this course. So taking this course gave me the, I guess, confidence that I could do this other course. I was seeing a lady for light therapy. It's one of the therapies that I do here, just because in Mexico they call it integrative health. So they integrate modern medicine with holistic, and so you're incorporating anything you need to get yourself healthy. The key focus, I guess, is to keep your body in a relaxed state so it can actually heal, because if it's in survival mode, it's not concentrating on healing. So I was doing a lot of different therapies up here still to keep my body in a relaxed state. So light therapy was one of them. It was a lady doing LED light therapy. And it was just bizarre that she moved from BC to this small town near me. And I connected with her before I went to Mexico the first time. And um, when I got back from there, I continued with it. And ironically, this cyst that I had on my thyroid for 16 years, it on my CT scans after doing months of light therapy, all of a sudden was smaller. And I always have the light pad over top of my thyroid. So this cyst was shrinking, and my doctor here he's like, well, it must be the immunotherapy. And I'm like, I doubt it, but okay. So it's something that I was really, and I love going for sessions because it's 40 minutes of laying under these heated light pads and you feel so incredible. 40 minutes feels like 2 minutes because you drop away, you're so relaxed. And it's just something that I did weekly just to get back into that relaxed state. And so I've just become very passionate about it. And I thought, okay, this woman wants to retire. So I asked her if she would teach me how to do this, because she wrote the curriculum on this also. So I said, can you teach me how to do this? And in my mind, it was just so that I could do it for myself. I would get the machine. I would be able to do it for myself anytime, and for my kids, my friends, whatever.
Yeah.
And it has morphed into, I didn't even realize it until you told me the other day that all these things have changed and you starting your own business. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting my own business. I better I better do something about that. So I finished my course in record time, and with all really, and it was pretty intense. It's a lot of stuff I haven't done for 20 years. So it was it was challenging, but it was enjoyable. I actually really immersed myself in it. And I don't think I would have been able to even start it if I hadn't been taking this course with you first. So yeah, I've now have an office space that I'm getting ready, and I've been seeing clients already at the health naturopath clinic that I have been going to for IV treatments for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, my whole life has changed too because of the way I think also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I really pay attention to is that one of the things you say is that always things are always still happening outside of you, but how we respond to them becomes different as we grow.
Yeah.
And I really noticed that I respond to the same things that keep happening outside of me. I've been responding differently, and it's changing them.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that it is so key, but it is so misunderstood, and it is so overlooked. We talked earlier about how like we all know to do this, but we didn't do it. And so one of the questions I normally ask is, what was your favorite lesson in the program? And of course, you knew, right away. And so that was lesson 9, which is the magic word, right? Which is the attitude uh,
Yes.
lesson. So let's speak on that a little bit, because you really credit this specific lesson or application or change in your thinking for the majority of the transformation and improvement in your results. So we'd love for you to touch on that as well, if you don't mind.
Yep. So I remember, I think I even texted you when I first listened to lesson 9. And it was that part where he says that everything just is, and we make it good or bad by the thoughts and feelings that we have about it. And I was like, oh, that just resonated so much with me because that's exactly what I needed to hear and to apply, right? Because I will overthink something, and yes, it creates those feelings that I don't want to feel, and then I can't sleep at night because of it, and it's just always on my mind, and I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I have applied that countless times since that lesson, that okay, everything just is. I have rental houses. Things go wrong. Like 2 water heaters went down. They were $2,500 each. Like it's just things you don't anticipate happening. And okay, it just is. So I have to do something about it. What am I going to do about it? So I call the plumber that he's actually like, as soon as I call him, he's there right away. So I have a good relationship with him because of
Yeah.
all the stuff going on. But yeah, I just deal with it and then carry on. And it feels so much better than dwelling on it and stressing about the money part of it. And that when you think of just how Bob says, like, just say that's good and carry on. So the one thing that really stood out for me when those things would happen is that I have the freedom that I can just say, okay, I need a new water heater, and I can pay cash for it now. Like I didn't have that choice before. So then that just makes me grateful for that part and forget all the maybe not so good parts of the whole situation. So I I really apply that. I remind myself of that every time something happens. Okay, this is just everything just is. Um, and then with that one lesson when you said, okay, what's the fact about this? So I think of what the fact is, and I realize how much thought and emotion I am applying to that fact every
Yeah.
time. And then I'm like, whoa, okay. So
Yeah.
then I just think of that thing as the fact, and
Yeah.
that's it. And I carry on. And it makes this past 2 months, probably ever since I did that lesson, that's probably the biggest changes in my life that have happened. And it's all inside of me, not things. It's just, yeah, what's changed inside me.
I just get so happy for you guys, because this is really about living from the inside out. And we're really talking about the quality of our lives, which is the quality of our thoughts. And if we keep thinking the same thoughts, and if we keep going about things the same way, then we're going to continue to have the same results. We shift our thinking and we start thinking like literally into the results we want well, then that's what we experience in our reality. And so when
Yep.
we look at here's you when you started, here's you now. Like you were sick, you didn't have your health, you didn't have your freedom, you didn't have purpose, you didn't, and we didn't even get to talk about like the dream home that you found, like all these things. And I mean, these things aren't just happening to you, guys, they're all happening through Nancy, right? Because she's the conduit to every experience in her life. So it's not that these things are happening for her, they're happening through her. And she really is the captain of her ship now. But you look at from every part of your life, from health to wealth to relationships with yourself and others, like it is like, can you even identify? This is where, it's really exciting. Can you even identify with the person you used to be in a way where, yeah, you can't, right?
Mm-mm. No, because when I think back to that, I can't even imagine how long I could have lasted
Oh,
in those situations in the way I was then. I
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary and like it's scary to think, and we actually don't want to spend too much time thinking along those lines because we know how powerful our thoughts are, but it's just like, wow,
Mhm.
and there's just so much more for you to discover and
Well, and that's
experience. Yeah.
the experiences part.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that taking this course has give like it just gives me the courage to, and I have the freedom now that I didn't have before. That in at the end of July, I was feeling kind of, I don't know, bored and unsettled, and I'm like, I want to go to the mountains. It's something that I wanted to do that I didn't have the courage to do before at all ever. And I'm single, so if I want to do these things, I can't rely on my friends who have husbands and families. And I had in the summer, it was the first time in my life that I had a week on, a week off with my kids. So I would have a week at a time without kids. And I'm like, I said to a friend, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself this week. And she's like, do something you can't do when you have kids. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, well, I could have done this with kids, but I wouldn't have had the courage to do it. I
Yeah.
needed to do it myself first. So it was a Sunday afternoon and I was sitting by myself and I'm like, started looking up places in Canmore because my daughter told me that was a beautiful place to stay. So I booked a place. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going. And I left the next morning and I went on a road trip and I didn't really tell a lot of people. And that's the other thing that's different about me now too, is that I used to have to, um, I guess it's that validation thing. I
Yeah.
used to have to tell everybody all the time what I was doing, and I don't so much anymore until maybe after I've done it. But I was woke up the next morning at this place I'm staying, and I'm having coffee outside, looking at the mountains, and I'm like, I should maybe tell my friends where I am because
Yeah.
they worry about me. So I messaged them. I snapped them a picture of my where I'm sitting, and they're like, "Where the heck are you now?"
Yeah. I love that. I love it.
I've done a lot of that lately. And then I did a helicopter tour there over the mountains, which was amazing. So then I just was in Vegas. I did that again in the Grand Canyon. And I don't have the fear that I used to have. Like I just go do because I don't know, I guess because of what's happened to me and I just have this motto that we've got this one life. So
We do.
yeah.
Really, really do. And you're living it. And this definition of freedom, everybody wants freedom, right? And we know what freedom is. It's that part of us that wants to further expand and express and have more experiences and grow and develop and all these types of things, right? And you are living a life of total freedom and doing what you want, right? On your terms. And that is not ego and that is not selfish. It is truly tapping into this life and into this potential and this gift that we have in our body and our mind. And we talked a little bit about, your standards and how you're no longer willing to settle for
Yeah.
anything that doesn't serve you, grow you, or make you happy, down to paint color, to anything, right? And that's huge for you as well and empowering. To live life based on what you want and making decisions from that. So, can you touch on that a little bit and that difference in you now?
Well, I I think it's kind of happened just gradually without me even recognizing it, but just there's a lot of things that happen in my life that I used to just tolerate because I thought that I had to. In order to be a good person, I had to tolerate all this stuff from people and just be a people pleaser. And
Yeah.
it would drain my energy and it would just make me feel awful. And then I'm thinking about that and I'm feeling bad. And I'm like, why do they feel like they have the right to do that? And it makes me feel bad. They don't think anything about it. So I've changed in the way that I'm not rude about it, but I will say what I need to say. And I try to be very nice or tactful or whatever. And I've had to tell some people that what they're doing or saying is, it makes me feel uncomfortable, or I don't want that in my life. And I've had to just be very um choosy, I guess, about what I put my energy into, or where I spend my energy. So I've become that way with everything,
Everything.
really.
You know what's funny is that you said, I guess I'm kind of choosy. And when we were talking, you said something with so much power and so much confidence and so much alignment. And I wrote it down. You said, we get to choose what we think. And, about being choosy. And it's not that you're choosing life, like you're choosing how you want to live. And it's not, we talked about this yesterday on a coaching call, but we're not doormats, but we are not people pleasers anymore, right?
Right.
And to get to that space where you have a total understanding of how all this works, it's awesome. It's freedom. It is just blissful over here.
Yeah. Well,
Amazing. Yeah.
another thing that just with that not people pleasing anymore, but knowing what I want and choosing and being good to myself first.
Yeah.
It I always thought that made me selfish, but
Right.
everything I'm learning the past few years, I know that's not true. And one of the things at the beginning, when I think I talked to you the very first time, and I said that one thing that I want to do is be able to help other people know about this place that I went to in Mexico and know that there's other options and other hope and whatever. And me being good to myself first gives me the energy to been I've had calls and texts and everything, like, enormously the past few weeks, especially people wanting me to talk about it or connect with one of their friends so I can talk to them about it. And it's just been, it's snowballing into more and more and more so that I can share my experience. And actually, the one lady that phoned me last night, her friend is the one with cancer, and she's struggling with what he's doing. And I said, well, what so she said, tell me part of your story. So I told her, and I said, so then I went to this place called Santa Viva in Mexico. And she's like, that's where he is right now. And I'm like, thank God. I said, that's
Oh
the place
my.
to be. And she said, yeah, he's so, he's telling me about it. He's sending pictures and videos. He's telling me all about their protocol. But she said, I'm so worried that he's getting scammed and all this. And I'm like, no, I said, that's the place he needs to be. And thank God he's there. So then I told her everything with my experience. And she's like, I feel so much better now. And then he's possibly, they were going to suggest a surgery down there, and he was worried about doing it. And I said, no, that's the doctor that you need to get every surgery from, because he's a miracle worker. Like, he's amazing. So that can alleviate his mind about this surgery. So it's just, that's what I wanted, was to be able to
Yeah.
help other people. And it's all the things that are happening that are allowing me to do this and get to those sea goals are all just flowing in with, they're pulling me along without me even doing. And then I'm like, whoa, I need to
Yeah.
catch up. I didn't even
Yeah.
realize it's happening.
Oh, it's just wildly exciting. And it's beautiful. It's awesome. It's amazing. You deserve all of this and more and more and more. And you had said you said so many great things, but the one thing that really stood out was, I know who I am and I know what I want. And those are remember the three big questions, right? Who am I? Why am I here? And what do I want? And you've answered those. You've discovered them. You've attuned to them. And that's why you have so much flow. You know who you are, you know what you want, and you know why you're here. And that is living life on purpose.
Yeah. And
Yes.
actually, probably in the spring, you know how you talked about us having a word,
Yes.
and it was one that I was searching for. Because after my divorce judgment, and I wasn't going to be farming anymore, and that was always such a huge part of my life. And then I was like, okay, what do I do? I was working at my friend's greenhouse, so I really applied myself there and did more there, and I loved doing that. But then that was done at the end of June, and then I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
But and I threw myself into these courses, and
Yes.
yes, I was searching for purpose
Yes.
because it's like I understand how when people retire from a job they've done all their lives and then they're kind of dealing with depression after because I think it's because they feel that they don't have a purpose.
100%. Retirement is a death sentence because there is no purpose. If your job or your kids are your purpose, and those things are on the outside of you, and when they go, and if they go, then a person is lost. They're completely lost. They have no direction. And Bob says, like, a person without a goal is lost, and it's so very true. And but you did the work, right? You did the work. You discovered your purpose, and then you aligned yourself accordingly, right? And you're living a life on purpose.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm genuinely just so freaking happy and so very proud of you as well because nobody knows. I don't even know what your journey and has been like. Nobody knows that but you. But I know with my own journey, like I just, it's amazing, it's inspiring, and you're going to help so many people with your story, with your pains and your passions and your gifts, and you already are, and you're just going to continue to change the world because you decided. I mean, it sounds cliche, but you're changing the world because you decided to change yourself. You had to be the change that you wanted to see in the world.
Yeah. Well, and I remember you saying at the start of all this that you would need a telescope to look back
Yes.
how and I'm like, yeah, okay.
I know.
It's actually true.
I
But
know.
my brother was home from Hungary for a few weeks, and so I was visiting him. And then the day that I was painting my office, I told him, okay, I'm gonna paint, and then I'm gonna hurry up and come see you before you go. And so I got there, and my they were staying with my sister and brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law was like, well, hey, do you want to come for a ride with us? Like, what are you doing today? And I'm like, I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, I'm doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
I wake up every morning and I think about how I get to choose whatever I want to do all day, every day now.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
my 9-year-old son this morning, because
Yeah.
he's just quite fascinated with this office and he's like, so is this going to be your job now? And I said, well, yeah, I'm like starting a business, so I get to kind of choose when I'm going in and when I'm working and stuff like that. And he's like, well, that's really nice actually that you get to pick and choose when you get to go in. And I said, yeah, so if I don't want to do this on a certain day, I don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. I'm like, yeah, actually
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Exactly. And you set the standard. Your son is like learning that, hey, I get to choose how I live. If I don't like something, I can change it and not to buy into the societal paradigms. Oh, that is so good. And you really get to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, and choose. And there's just like no better, like it actually becomes very hard to even say no because we just say we can say yes to everything. And we have the courage. I mean, if we want to, but it often becomes hard to say no because you're like, well, there's no lack or limitation. Like I can do anything. The only
Hmm.
question is like, do I want to do this? Right. So
Right. Yeah, actually, that's the question I ask myself is do I want to or not? That's
exactly. And honestly, that alone clears up so much chaos and confusion and indecision and procrastination. It's like, do I want to do this?
yeah.
And that alone, it just is so easy.
Well, and that's um the one lesson that talks about making a
That's the
decision.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about myself, that I can make a decision instantly now. And
Boom.
it all based on me asking myself, well, what do I want?
Do I want? Yeah. What do I want? Decision. It is so big. And again, it's so misunderstood, and nothing happens until a decision is made. And a decision only comes from, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. We could probably go on for another hour. We'll probably set up another one in like 3 to 6 months. And I do know, and I mean, there's probably people that are watching that want to know more about you, like the health journey specifically, and they probably know people or themselves. So is it okay if people do reach out to you? And if so, how would you like that to be done? Just through Facebook or through
Yeah,
email?
absolutely can reach out to me, and through Facebook, like on, if they can find me on Facebook and Messenger, whichever.
Okay,
Um,
or yeah, they can get in touch with me and I'll refer them over to you.
yeah, that works too. Yep.
Because there's a lot of people sitting there with similar health concerns, and they think along the lines that we do, but they're just not sure where to go, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just so accessible here, right?
Yeah. And they, what's nice about going there is they tailor your program to exactly what you need. It's not just a one size fits all, and they will get you in as soon as you need. They don't waste time. They have everything under one roof. So all your scans, tests, blood work, everything under one roof. Your results are almost immediate.
Yeah,
And they just deal with it right there. They will do surgeries, they will do whatever you need. So it's incredible. And
that's
it's like
healthcare. Uh,
5-star resort. So
I
it's a
know.
beautiful place.
I know the pictures that you would share. It's just like, I just want to go there for vacation.
Yes. Well, you can go for a 1 week detox week. And
Oh, well, then maybe that would.
they pamper you and treat you like a goddess. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, amazing.
I feel maybe a retreat coming
Yeah.
on for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nancy, so very much. Keep
Thank
growing,
you.
keep inspiring, and just know that you matter, you're important, and we're so happy that you're here.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. We'll chat soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.